Well, the Queenslander, the house that is surely one of the most recognisable and iconic images of the place we all call home. You only have to talk about the Queenslander to conjure up a vision of a sprawling timber structure on stumps, maybe a shaded veranda, definitely a roof of corrugated iron, maybe a mango tree or a frangipani in the front garden. But how much do you know about the construction of these classic Queensland houses? Maybe you live in a Queenslander yourself and have a few questions about restoration or repairs. Well, 1300 222 612 is the number. If you ring right now, we might be able to answer those questions because one Brisbane man, a carpenter by trade and now an author by design, has written a fascinating and detailed book full of advice, photos and diagrams for owners, restorers and tradesmen alike. The book is called The Building of the Queensland House, a Carpenter's Handbook and Owner's Manual, and the author is Andy Jenner. Andy, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
This book really is about the basics, step by step, of the building of a Queenslander. What inspired you to write it?
Well, somebody had to write it. There's a lot of people out there that really hate these Queenslanders and they'll do everything they can to destroy them. I thought I might try and stimulate a little bit of respect for the old places.
Well, I think there's a lot of people love the Queenslanders. There's some people hate them in the sense that they can see valuable land underneath them that they want to put a different kind of house on.
That's exactly right, yeah. And that is very sad. It's happening all over Brisbane, it's happening all over Queensland. More so in Brisbane, of course, because it's such a dynamic city now.
Is it about you? Is the book about you building a Queenslander, or are you going through the historic process, the history of someone once upon a time building a Queenslander step by step?
Yeah, it's set at the time that particular Queenslander, let's say from 1890 to 1910, would have actually been built, and the blokes that would have been building it, the foreman and the owners, and it follows the entire construction from the surveyors setting out the land in those days when, of course, there was no electricity and no traffic. The entire traffic would have been horse-drawn, so that if you imagine these steep blocks in Brisbane, they would have had horse drays and carts delivering every scrap of material to build a house, and only manpower to do all the work.
Your particular house you're talking about is built at Red Hill on that steep slope leading up to the church on the hill?
That's right, yes.
Are you building a Queenslander now yourself?
No, I don't think anyone's built a Queenslander since those days. There's been a lot of lookalikes, but not a real Queenslander. It would be an expensive thing to do today to get hold of all the timber.
It would. You're a carpenter by trade, but you're obviously not a Queenslander by birth.
No, that's right, yeah. I was the last of the 10-quid tourists, so...
Did you live in a Queenslander when you first came to Australia?
Oh, yes, we did. Well, actually, the very first place we lived was a flat in Bundaberg. But after that, we moved into a lovely old Queenslander in Auchenflower, which is now gone, like many of them, The sad thing is that the finest of the old Queenslanders were up on the high ground, on the hilltops, magnificent places. They've all been, well, not all of them, but a lot of them been pulled down for units, So
1300 222 612 is the number if you would like to ask Andy Jenner a question about the building of the Queensland House. 612 ABC Brisbane and ABC Local Radio Queensland, Coast FM as well. Good to have you all along this morning. I'm Warren Boland and we're just 8 minutes away from the news at 12 noon. Andy, the building process, you've got diagrams, you've really gone into it in great detail. What amazes you about it now when you look back?
Well, there's a lot more to the skill that the blokes had in those days than is apparent just looking at a wooden box with a tin roof. It's quite complicated. Each little part isn't complicated, but assembling the whole thing is. And that particular house, I knew it very well. We put in some of the tallest stumps by hand, and that was quite a long time ago. Incidentally, the book...
Did you own this house?
I did, yes.
Right.
I had fantasies of being one of the first people to invest and sell. I never made a penny out of it.
What year was that you
I'm guessing
bought or owned it?
about 1975, something like that.
Right, right. It's always been said that the Queenslander is very practical for our climate. Compared to modern forms of housing, modern designs, do you think that's true?
Well, it is, yes, it is, because you can adjust a Queenslander. They desperately need insulating, but also there are drawbacks that people today possibly would not appreciate, like the fact that, you know, the actual house is a box. You can hear the neighbours outside, and they can hear you walking backwards and forwards across the floor. But it's there are two types of people that appreciate a Queensland are the young people and the older people. The middle-aged people want flash fibro boxes, you know, with lots of equipment in them. You can put lots of equipment in a Queenslander, of course.
What are the biggest issues when it comes to maintenance of a Queenslander?
Well, there's no doubt that to get a proper job done, and by a proper job I mean an original job, the job that the original carpenters would have done, that it's time-consuming. You can get the timber, you know, if you go to your local timber yard, you can get good quality ironbark, but you have to persevere to get it. The problem is, of course, that a lot of repairs are done by people who know nothing about the old Queensland, and they do the repair as if it's a fence, or, you know. So it's a shame in a way, because each poor repair just takes that little bit of life out of the old place. And I really appreciate the people that love their old houses and maintain them to the original standard. It's a dying art, I'm afraid.
Look, as you suggest, modern building materials are considerably cheaper than the cost of building a traditional Queenslander, and contemporary architecture aims for a cheaper build than you know, in a previous generation. Has the Queenslander got a future?
It certainly has, because although the actual number of Queenslanders is reducing every year. You know, they're disappearing from our suburbs, from suburbs in Toowoomba and Rockhampton. They're gradually going. The ones that will be left will be the ones that have been preserved beautifully, the little cottages and the grand old houses. But all the same, if they're left as museum pieces, that will be a great shame, because the whole character of our cities will change when that happens, when there's very few of them left.
I'm speaking to Andy Jenner. Andy has written a book, The Building of the Queensland House, a Carpenter's Handbook and Owner's Manual. It's self-published. Andy, renovations and extensions with big kitchens and en-suites and walk-in wardrobes and air conditioning and everything else are all the rage. Are Queenslanders being renovated sympathetically, in your opinion?
I don't think so.
Can they be?
Of course they can be, yes. I mean, it's just a case of doing all of the development work in the original materials, not necessarily to the original proportions, but particularly the roof line, the linings, the floors, belt rails. You know, a house can be made like a palace and still be an original Queenslander. The shameful thing is to see a nice old Queenslander, which the owners obviously respect enough to retain that bit, with a great big glass and steel and fibro box tacked onto the side of it, or the back of it. You know, it's that's the shame, that the money is spent in not improving the house, but sticking another box on the back of it. You know, that's such a pity.
But a big kitchen, a big modern kitchen. I mean, the old Queenslander had a little kitchen. How do you create a big kitchen in a Queenslander?
Well, you've got to extend the house, of course. But there's no reason why the new big kitchen shouldn't have at least a bit of VJs around the top of the cupboards, you know, and that would at least, and the same doors, the same windows, matching, you know, all the matching joinery. That means that when the kitchen, after a few years, becomes a derelict thing, it can be ripped out, but the house hasn't itself been damaged. And even if it's an extension, if it's built originally and the kitchen built within that, then when the kitchen ages, it can go. The house is still okay.
So you're talking about the bones of the house, making
Yes,
the bones true to the original design.
That's right. You can have a $100,000 kitchen put into an old house. It's fantastic. But don't destroy the old house to do it.
Building in under Queenslanders, in fact, building in under just about any house is also something that's very common now, to get more rooms and more living space. Is that okay in a Queenslander?
Personally, I don't think so. It creates a lot of problems, particularly with termites, and it requires the use of an enormous amount of poisoned timber, which the owners have to live with. So yes, it can be done, and everyone does it, and I've done it many times because I have to earn a living. But I still think a Queenslander should be up on stumps with as little clutter under it as possible.
Interestingly, just this week, the federal government put out a press release saying new restrictions on the use of copper chrome arsenate, CCA, for treating timber come into place from the 1st of July. So it's now the law. CCA has been used to preserve wood in a variety of situations, such as for telegraph poles, decking and fencing, also used for children's playground equipment, but there are new rules regarding the use of it, and there are more restrictions.
Yeah, well, it was banned in playgrounds quite some time ago, and sensibly, because you can't have children licking that sort of stuff,
Well, there are obviously issues that you have to deal with if you're going to build a Queenslander, termites being just one of them.
Yes.
But there are many rewards, clearly, in your view.
Oh, I think so, yes. There's a whole chapter on termites in the book.
And there are a whole lot of chapters that are absolutely fascinating. If you're a carpenter, a builder, or someone who loves building and the workmanship that goes into some of the lovely traditional houses, the Queenslander house, I'm sure you will enjoy The Building of the Queensland House, a carpenter's handbook and owner's manual from A.L. Jenner. Andy Jenner, thank you very much for coming in to join us this morning.
Thanks very much, Warren.